Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the kickoff celebration for the Bee Branch Creek Railroad Culverts project. Yay. Absolutely, it's been a long time coming. I'm Roy Buell, and I have the honor of serving as the mayor of Dubuque, and joining me today are council colleagues Rick Jones and Kate Larson. We're also honored to have several congressional staff members in the audience today, including James Rice, Rochelle Fuller, and Sherry Kuntz from the office of Senator Chuck Grassley. We have Mary Kate Monroe and Brittany Zumbach Carroll from the office of Senator Joni Ernst. And we have Elaine Klein and Alexander Laska from the office of Representative Abby Finkenauer. Today's event acknowledges the initiation of the Bee Branch Creek Railroad Culverts project. It's the final phase of the Bee Branch Creek restoration and a critical piece of the larger Bee Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project, a $232 million investment to mitigate devastating flash flooding, improve water quality, stimulate investment, and enhance quality of life within the Bee Branch watershed. The Bee Branch Creek restoration is one of the 12 phases of the overall watershed project, which includes detention basins, green alleys, storm sewer improvements, floodgate replacement, the Bee Branch Healthy Homes and Resiliency Program, and more. While all of the phases work in concert and are important to the overall function of the project, the restoration of the Bee Branch Creek is the most impactful phase and, at over $100 million, represents the largest portion of the overall investment. Our journey to this event today began 20 years ago. Looking back at the storm of 1999, North End residents should have been in their basements seeking shelter from tornadoes. But in the darkness of a power outage, stormwater pooled chest deep in the streets and began pouring into basements. Hundreds of basements were flooded. Furnaces, water heaters, washers and dryers, freezers, and even electrical boxes were damaged. That same year, the creation of the Drainage Basin Master Plan was commissioned, and in 2001 was adopted by the City Council. The Master Plan recommended major infrastructure projects to mitigate the risk of flood damage, including the reconstruction of the Bee Branch Creek from south of the old PAC site to East 24th Street. Placing an open waterway through the heart of Dubuque has clearly been a major undertaking. The lower Bee Branch Creek, which stretches from Garfield Avenue south to Kerper Boulevard and is especially beautiful this time of year with native plants and a variety of wildlife, was completed in 2011. Construction of the upper Bee Branch Creek, which stretches from Garfield Avenue north to East 24th Street, began in 2015. 2 years later, in July of 2017, we celebrated its opening. The Bee Branch Creek Greenway is not only a stormwater conveyance facility, but also serves as a beautiful linear park with a number of amenities and including a multi-use trail, scenic overlooks, a play area with slides, and an outdoor classroom and amphitheater. Today, we kick off the third and final phase of the Bee Branch Creek restoration. 6 large diameter culverts will be tunneled under the railroad yard, which will allow stormwater to drain more efficiently from the upper Bee Branch Creek to the lower Bee Branch Creek and 16th Street Detention Basin. In February, the construction contract was awarded to Tricon Construction of Dubuque, and as you can see behind me, work has begun on this critical piece of the flood mitigation project. The new culverts are expected to be substantially completed and functional by this time next year, and the entire project completed by June 2021. Next, you will hear from City Engineering, the Engineering Department, and Civil Engineer and Bee Branch Creek Project Manager Darren Muring has played a key role in the B Branch related infrastructure improvements, including this one. Please welcome Darren.
Thanks, Roy. Good afternoon. So 21 years ago, my family and I moved to Dubuque. Because 21 years ago, I started my employment in the engineering department with the city, and 21 years ago, I started working on the B Branch project. So the B Branch project is a lot of things to a lot of people, but as the mayor, indicated, at its heart, it's a flood mitigation project to protect 1,300 homes and businesses and help them make more resilient from flooding. And of course, today we're celebrating the construction of that key piece, the railroad Culverts project. Many people have, gone into making this project a reality. Citizens, city staff, legislative representatives, local, state, and federal agency staffers, just to name a few. And of course, Tricon Construction of Dubuque is here and already making progress. But I wanted to recognize just the design team a little bit here. So led by city engineer Gus Ahoyas, who always listens to citizens' concerns, tries everything he can to address their issues, all the while, trying to make sure that we are good stewards of public money. Project manager Steve Brown, whose attention to detail is second to none. Engineering technicians who help on the job, Tom Freund, Chris Lyons, Dean Mattoon, and our whole engineering department staff who really support what we as engineers do on a day-to-day basis. Consultants, Eric Veith and his staff from Strand Associates, Mike Jansen, Denny Waugh and their staff at IIW, Dave Logeman from Allender Butsky, Dave Bennett from Bennett Trenchless, Abby Moyleen from Psyche Design. For the past 10 years or so, we've been working together in developing this project. And I can say that it's been a privilege and a pleasure, working with such a dedicated staff. The one thing I can say about this collective group is there is no egos. It was just answers, ideas, questions, and solutions. But a project like this, the term design team isn't just limited to engineers. Obviously a project of this scope requires input from many other people like Planning Services Manager Laura Karstens, who, when you're doing something of this magnitude, you have to consider how else it's going to impact the community. Taking input from people like Leisure Services Manager Marie Ware or Park Division Manager Steve Faisal, because their staff, they're going to be the ones who are going to have to maintain many of these improvements when we're done. Taking input from Public Works Director John Klosterman or Water Resource Recovery Manager Willie O'Brien, their dedicated staff, they're going to have to operate some of the facilities when we're done. And then it even goes down to Public Information Officer Randy Gale and B Branch Communication Specialist Kristen Hill, who not only help us answer citizen questions and get them the information they need in a timely manner, but they really serve as a conduit between the design team and citizens for their questions or concerns or even their ideas. The other thing a design team normally has is what we call a quality assurance, quality control team, and that's that group or that person who will kind of outline how a design can be improved, how it might be deficient. And on this project, we've had the benefit of having an additional QA/QC team, as we call it, and that would be Canadian Pacific Railway. So, many people hear that railroads are difficult to work with and that they're kind of treated special. But when you understand, how much they mean to interstate commerce throughout the Midwest, you begin to understand why that is. So, it might seem innocuous enough if we just cut through their tracks here in Dubuque, but when you understand that that could impact hundreds, if not thousands of miles of track throughout the Midwest, you understand why they're different, why they're important, and why they have to be heeded. In working with Canadian Pacific staff like Kurt Whalen and Andy and Sarah and others over the past several years, they've proven themselves to be staunch defenders of their infrastructure, the overall railroad operation, but also just public safety, and we should expect nothing less. And so obviously if anything happens during our project that impacts their track or after, they're going to be involved no matter who's at fault. And so there's no question that our design is better and our project is much better likely to be successful because of the extra scrutiny and input from the railroad. As the mayor said, we've advanced a lot of the projects already in the watershed with the upstream detention basins, the green alleys, you know, and daylighting the B Branch Creek below us here. And collectively, they provide a lot of protection. They provide, in engineering speak, they provide what we say is a 1 in a 75-year storm. And really, it's just statistically something that's likely to happen once every 75 years. When we're done with this project, that protection will be raised to a 1 in a 500-year event. So a drastic improvement. That's the importance of this project. But I think it serves as more than that. Hopefully, when this project gets done, it'll help you know, give peace of mind to hundreds of Dubuque families who, before the B Branch project, you know, when there was a forecast of thunderstorms coming in the night before or during the night, where they would understandably have angst or worry and have these fitful, sleepless nights because wondering, am I going to be flooded? Am I going to wake up with a basement full of flooding? And so when this is done, hopefully, you know, when they hear that rain on the roof at night, that like a lot of us, it's more of a soothing, comforting prelude to a peaceful night's sleep. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Darren. I suppose you could almost consider this a legacy project for you. Okay, and thank you also to all those who have been a part of developing this project, especially City Manager Mike Van Milligan, City Attorney Krenna Brumwell, Senior Counsel Barry Lindahl, and City Engineer Gus Zahoyas. It's because of your dedicated efforts that we have arrived at this kickoff celebration today. In early December 2013, the B Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project was awarded $98.5 million from the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board in the form of state sales tax increment financing spread over the next 20 years. This support enabled us to complete the most impactful phases of the project over 6 to 7 years instead of 20 years. We are extremely grateful to the state of Iowa for these funds and this program. And now please welcome Iowa Department of Homeland Security Director and Chair of the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board, Joyce Flynn. Welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The City of Dubuque B Branch project stands out as unique. There are numerous different stages and components of that project that contribute to what has become a model urban watershed-based initiative. This initiative addresses a multitude of issues related to long-term flooding and water quality impairment impacts. What makes the project really unique is that it changes a small creek from a liability into an asset that is aesthetically integrated into the fabric of the community. In preparing to talk with you today, I asked my staff to give me a little background on when our relationship with Dubuque began. And as you've heard, it's a long-term relationship and we're not done yet. The mayor has said, this started back in 2001 when they were working on updating a mitigation plan. Along with that, they were looking at projects and what they might like to do throughout the mitigation life. Those began to voluntarily acquire residential structures at the risk from B Branch flooding, and this collaboration continued with the city for more than 10 years throughout 2013, setting the stage for future partnership and efforts related to a more comprehensive watershed-based approach that is part of this current project dedication. All told, over 18 years, we are proud to say that the partnership between us and the City of Dubuque, or state and all federal funding sources or various funding sources, is that $232 million, as the mayor mentioned. The benefits are too numerous to list, but I do want to highlight a communication we received from Tom Berger, your county emergency manager, last time there was a heavy rain. And I had been here before doing damage assessments in the rain, because I've been with the department 20 years. Tom called us and said, I'm delighted to say the mitigation efforts work. We have no damages to report to your office. So as has been mentioned, the value in the citizens of Dubuque knowing they don't have to worry about the next rainfall event is not something they have to fear, and that is in fact priceless. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joyce. And in addition to the state flood mitigation sales tax increment program, the Railroad Culverts project has received funding from the State Revolving Loan Program through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and the National Disaster Resiliency Competition Grant through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Iowa Economic Development Authority. The overall Bee Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project is the largest public project in Dubuque history. To date, the city has received $162.6 million in grants to fund the $232 million watershed project. I invite and encourage you to read your program for a complete list of partners who have made this project possible. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Watershed resident and Iowa State Senator Pam Yoakum.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I could not be more proud to stand here before you today and thank you. Thank you, the City of Dubuque, Gus and Darren and our City Council. You're the ones who are where the rubber hits the road. I mean, at the state level, we can certainly help provide some of the funding, but you made it happen. And I was one of those families in 1999 that did have about 3 feet of water in the basement, and I can tell you it's something you never want to live through again. And since then, no more water, so I'm one of them that can go to bed safely at night, and when there's a storm, not worry about getting up the next morning and bailing water again. So thank you so much, and thank you to those that we're going to be recognizing today for your legacy contribution. This is certainly a great example of the partnerships between government at all levels and the private sector. And I also want to shout out to Supervisor Dave Baker because it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Dave Baker. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Senator Yoakum. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Dubuque resident and Iowa State Representative Lindsay James.
I'm a new legislator, so note to self, high heels at a construction site is not the best footwear option. It's a real honor to be here. There was a man by the name of A.J. Musty, who was known as an American pastor, but also as someone who was a carefully considered radical activist. He was known for his voice as it related to the Vietnam War and another issues around peace and social justice. And he would, for a season of his life, go down to the White House in the dark of night, and he would light a candle. And he would do this over and over and over again, and a reporter finally picked up on this ongoing action and joined him one night. And he said, AJ, you cannot possibly believe that you standing here in the dark of night with a candle is going to change any of our country's policies. AJ's response was, I don't stand here to change our country's policies. I stand here so that our country does not change me. We find ourselves once again in a time in our history of deep political division and political polarization. And if we allow that division, it can change us. It can tear us apart collectively, individually. But not here. For some reason, not here in Dubuque. This is a moment where we actually celebrate the reality that when Dubuque faces adversity, we do not divide. We actually stand together. When we face families who are displaced and homes that are destroyed because of flooding, we stand together. When we face very real human need, we stand together. And so this moment to me is a strong testament to the reality that here in Dubuque, we stand together. and division and political polarization does not have to tear us apart. So today we celebrate the collective effort of so many incredible people in our city and in our state and in our federal government for the work that you do. But today, this groundbreaking moment is not just a celebration, it is truly an act of coming together and an act of, I would say, radical resilience. So well done, Dubuque.
Thank you, very much. Thank you very much, Lindsay. In 2011, several local businesses and organizations contributed to the America's River 3 campaign, serving as the local match for a $2.25 million river enhancement community attraction and tourism grant for the Bee Branch Creek Restoration Project. Here today to recognize these legacy donors for their leadership and support is the America's River 3 campaign honorary chairs, Sue Hefkemeyer and Gary Dolphin.
Well, good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here today and to celebrate, instead of fear, the impact the Mississippi River has had and will have on Dubuque. Many of you probably remember, more than 20 years ago, a vision for Dubuque to capitalize on one of the largest attractions in the world was born. The America's River campaign made history in Dubuque in the early 2000s after the first campaign celebrated its accomplishments with the opening of the Grand Harbor Resort and Water Park, the Grand River Center, the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium, and all the riverfront amenities at the Port of Dubuque. This $188 million redevelopment of Dubuque's riverfront at the 4th Street Peninsula was only the beginning of the Dubuque Renaissance. In early 2010, the America's River 2 saw the completion of the vision in addition of the National River Center, the transient boat docks, the Ice Harbor Marina, along with the Riverside Plaza, which connected the 12-acre museum site. The combined investment of over $250 million in the America's River 1 and 2 campaigns leveraged an additional $400 million in redevelopment of the 4th Street Peninsula. These two campaigns also spurred nearly $800 million in downtown development as Main Street reinvestment exploded during those 20 years. When the community faced significant flooding challenges in the Bee Branch Creek watershed, leaders embraced the idea of restoring the creek and its floodplain and creating a beautiful gateway from Wisconsin to Iowa over the Mississippi River. The restored creek and its floodplain would stretch a mile into Dubuque's most historic neighborhoods from the Mississippi River to Comiskey Park. America's River 3 campaign was launched in December of 2010. We are grateful for the early donors of the America's River 3 campaign and their vision and inspiration. Their leadership leveraged, as the mayor said, $2.25 million in a Vision Iowa grant for the trails that we enjoy today along the Bee Branch. To tell you more about those early and significant legacy donors, I'm going to turn the podium over to Gary Dolphin.
Thanks, Sue. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our field of dreams. Still got to put the turf down, but that's a great day all the way around. I want to thank Sue for her guidance and leadership as honorary co-chair. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Norma Denlinger, the fiery star, the fiery meteorite, I call her, on so many projects down through the years. And while she's living at Stonehill now, we certainly think of Norma on this day. She and I were the original co-chairs, and then Sue jumped in when we needed somebody badly, and Sue has been just stupendous. So keep Norma in your thoughts today. We are very excited to properly recognize the early donors of America's River 3 project. As you all know, if you don't have that seed or startup money, it can put you behind significantly time-wise. And these are the same people that have their doors knocked on 100 times a year, and they always step up, and in this case they did. When we began 9 years ago, there were very few resources for flood mitigation. And as all of you know, Darren mentioned the number 1,300 homes, businesses, neighbors, and friends suffered through 6 half a dozen presidential disaster declarations due to flash flooding. So the community came together along with these folks that I'm about to introduce to you and created a plan that would mitigate the flooding and create a beautiful linear park on Dubuque's north end. And we're just about complete with that, with the B Branch 3. So we're here today to recognize legacy gifts to this award-winning project. The name of each donor will be prominently displayed at amenities along the creek in the B Branch Greenway. These naming plaques are scheduled to be installed yet this summer. And many of these sites where they will be installed, you've driven by a few times and, like me, have marveled at their beauty. So as I call your name and your business represented, please come up and accept our well-deserved wishes and recognition. First off, Mike Fitzpatrick. Mike is the Regional Market President of American Trust and Savings Bank, now Midwest One, whose gift supported the B Branch Creek Greenway landing. Mike, thanks so much. Tut Fuller is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Dubuque Bank and Trust, whose gift supported the lower B Branch Trail. Thank you, Tut and DB&T. Joe Hearn, President and Chief Executive Officer of Dupaco Community Credit Union, whose gift supports the Sycamore Scenic Overlook, where Dupaco has an office. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, bud. Dubuque County Supervisor, happy birthday, Dave Baker. The gift from the county, Dubuque County, supported the B Branch Prairie Grassland, native to Iowa. Thanks, David.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mike Donahue. Mike is the Regional President for U.S. Bank, whose gift supported the Eagles Watch Audubon Overlook. Here he is, Mike Donahue. Mike, thanks.
So this is what you do now?
Yeah, this is what I do now. If you couldn't make it, I still know how to find the bank, so it would have been all right. Thanks, Mike. The Dubuque Racing Association has been so involved here and elsewhere, as we all know. Jesus Avalas is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Q Casino and a vital member of the DRA. And I'm honored to call Jesus to the podium. The DRA's gift will support the 24th Street Overlook. Jesus Avalas. Thank you, Jesus. Premier Bank, Premier's gift supported the Creekside Amphitheater, which also serves as an outdoor classroom. Now, oh yeah, Jeff did make it. We were concerned he might not get here today. Jeff Mozina, the CEO of Premier.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Good to see you, buddy.
You too, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks to all these pillar businesses and leaders in our community. So I'm anxious to see level 3 of the B Branch beautification project to its resolution, to its end, and we can see a little more light at the end of the tunnel, that tunnel there, which will look spectacular in a few short months. Thank you all for being here today. We're grateful for all of our donors and all of the great vision of the city and everybody involved. Have a great day.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, I'll turn the page here. So, instead, to symbolize how the Railroad Culverts project will complete the creek restoration safely and efficiently, channel more water throughout the greenway, and connect the trail system, we'll place the final piece of the puzzle, completing the full picture. I was worried I wasn't going to get that in there right. One other thing before we leave. This trail that you see that ends right here, is going to go under that tunnel right there, the old B branch, and connect that with the other trail on the other side so we can come under the tracks and complete the circle. So that's a big part of the project. So again, thank you all for joining us today. I encourage you to stay updated on our progress by contacting us or by following the project online and through social media. We hope you'll join us for a celebration when the project is completed. Please feel free to take a closer look at the project rendering before you leave today. At this time, I invite our speakers and council members to join together for a quick photo before we all leave. Thank you.